Thank you very much to Sir Richard Samlal Singh, our very able and eloquent Master of Ceremonies this morning. Madam Principal, Mrs. Ranu Vishnu Jadu, His Worship, the Mayor of Chaguanas, Mr. Gopal Budan, who unfortunately had to depart our ceremony earlier than expected. Representatives from the Ministry of Education, President, Mr. Roshan Parasram Singh and Mr. Damendra Singh of the Acharya Pratinidhi Sabha School Board of Management, family of Acharya Pandit Ram Samuj, executives of the PTA, specially invited guests, teachers, administrators, ancillary staff, parents, other pupils who are joining us here today, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, graduates. I greet you with greetings of peace in the forms of Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Salam Namaste, if you'd like to abbreviate it. Basically, it is a greeting that says to you, I wish you peace, but I also point you in the direction of the source of that peace. Salams, I wish you peace. Namaste, the peace, I acknowledge that it resides within each and every one of us. So Salam Namaste, good morning, and thank you very much in advance for having me here today. Before I begin, however, there is one thing I would like to do. There is a lovely young lady who has braved illness to be with us here today. And some of you would have noticed her earlier. I'm not calling her name, but to brave that illness and still be able to take the stage today, despite all that has happened, I think we need to begin by giving her a hearty and lofty round of applause for her bravery. So this will be very different. The iPhone was launched in 2007. Graduates, at that time, you were either not yet a thought, maybe a plan, possibly a dream, probably a fetus, or at the very least a crazy surprise for mom and dad. But there is a reason that I'm telling you this. You see, every generation before you has been introduced to technology incrementally over the course of their lifetime. You, however, are different. You are the first generation for whom our greatest technological advancements have been a part of your lives from the very start. You were born into the era within which the primary means of connection to the internet was via a mobile device. That is the era of Wi-Fi and high bandwidth cell service, social media, constant connectivity and on-demand entertainment and communication services. You, graduates, are who the Pew Research Center calls the post-millennials, but you are now more commonly known as Generation Z, or what they call Gen Zs. Which, by the way, I hope to God is the closest that any of you will ever come to being called anything, even remotely sounding like a zesser. Graduates, you are already the most ethnically, religiously, and otherwise diverse generation to have ever walked this planet. Yet while that diversity may be celebrated by some, it is unwelcome and worse, feared by others. You see, people generally fear that which they cannot understand, and I want you all to know this morning that long before you have dreamed even one of your possible million dreams, others have been harboring an untold number of fears about you. Why is that? Because in your short lifespan thus far, you have been unpredictable. You do not carry the baggage, the scars, and the indoctrination that your parents and those before them used to carry. That means that the marketers are struggling to reach you. The politicians and their old tricks will not be able to appeal to you. And institutions and people who strive on controlling you are losing their power daily. I tell you this now, so that whenever next you walk into a room with one of your amazing out-of-the-box ideas that could potentially change hundreds, if not thousands of lives for the better, you will understand why you are being met with resistance. It is because people are already afraid of you. They know what you are capable of, disrupting this chaotic established order. And now it is time that you come to know as well what you too are capable of. A million dreams. It sounds nice, doesn't it? It sounds dreamy, full of potential, possibility, like even the sky is not the limit, you know? But despite that, I stand here today and I ask you to say no to that notion. Because as lofty as this sounds, it is neither practical nor progressive. Rather, it is a distraction. A million dreams is only possible within something like the quantum realm in the Avengers multiverse, where space and time are irrelevant. That is not the case in this real world, or at least in this reality. Let me put this to you another way. Graduates, by a show of hands, how many of you have Netflix at home? All right. How many of you use YouTube? Good. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of a million dreams as either Netflix or YouTube. You will never enjoy any of them unless you pick one. You see, these platforms will mean nothing. The opportunities and the open doors will amount to naught if all you do is scroll the surface viewing the thumbnails, or as the old people used to say, judging the book by the cover. You have to pick one. You must. It is what the platforms were designed for. You pick one, you consume the content partially or fully, and maybe after picking you will realize that it wasn't as interesting as it seemed, or maybe it piques your interest even further. So you share it, you like it, you review it, you rate it, but you consume it, and then you move on. Either to the next episode in the series or to the next thing that interests or intrigues you, but you must start the process, not by scrolling, but by picking one. You cannot exist or operate in a suspended state of ongoing dreaming. Just ask the generation before you, the millennials. Many of them have been waiting for life to fall into place, taking time to figure out life and to figure themselves out, not knowing that while they were dreaming, life was passing them by. Now, I'm not here this morning to knock dreams or the idea of having options and backup plans, not at all. I strongly encourage them. In fact, I am sure that you already have some of them, and even if you don't, that is all right as well. What I am advocating, however, is focus. And in the words of Steve Jobs, people think focus means saying yes to the things that you've got to focus on. But that is actually not what it means at all. Focus means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that you will have while you are pursuing a particular thing. I ask you to take a moment to let that sink in and to understand how brash focus can be. Because when you learn to say no, ask the adults here, when you learn to say no, as empowering as that may be for you, people will get offended. And most likely, these people will be the ones that you love and care about, and the ones that love and care about you. But this is the real cost of focus. Some folks, maybe your peers or others, may try to invigorate you into buying into their suggestions by invoking the multitasking card, even though the science on this clearly says otherwise. And for those who didn't get that memo, the science is solid. And the science says that human beings are incapable of multitasking. Rather, the brain switches quickly between tasks. Attempting to multitask, therefore, is inefficient. It is prone to errors and reduces the possibility of entering the mental state known as workflow, where things seem to get done so effortlessly and timelessly. Or to continue with our YouTube analogy, you wouldn't watch 1 minute of one video, pause that video, switch to another video, watch a minute of that video, and then come back to the other video. Well, I'll tell you this much. Maybe we missed the memo on how you have evolved. The best practice, however, according to the science, is for you to complete one before moving on to the next, because that is what focus is all about. Now, the million-dollar question above all else is, how do you know? How do you know which one to pick when there are so many options? Well, let's go back to YouTube again, since you seem to be enjoying this. How do you decide what to look at on YouTube? You usually choose the subject matters that are of interest to you. You would pick things that excite you. You would pick things that you already like, things that you may have heard positive reviews about or that came recommended. So far, so good? Good. Your friends or family may even suggest some things to you. They may suggest some channels. They may suggest some presenters. They may suggest some topics or subjects for you to follow. There's a slim chance that you may have seen your parents' viewing history, especially if you share the smart TV at home. And so maybe you've explored their digital footsteps, maybe just out of curiosity to see what the old folks are looking at. But ultimately, you chose the content that appealed to you, regardless of what your motivation was. So I want to say to you this morning that the key is finding that motivation. You have to find your motivation. Find the subject matters that excite you. The things that make you want to view more of the same or related content. Find out, ask yourself, what gives you purpose? This is how you will narrow down the options. Eventually, you will click a few items. Some of them you will like, others you will love, some you will discard. I do want to warn you, though, that your interests will change over time as you grow as a person and as life and the environment changes. Things you liked yesterday, you may not like today. Some of you may have liked, what was it, One Direction when you were growing up? And now some of you like K-pop. I want to tell you, however, that your tastes will change and that is okay. I want to also tell you, in case everybody else is trying to rush the process, that you have time. You still have time before you will be required to narrow down the subjects even further when you get to, say, Form 3, for instance. So for now, I urge you to take it all in. Scroll as much as you'd like, explore as much as you'd like. Take your time in finding your passion and your purpose. You do not have to be able to answer the question right now of what you want to do or who you'd like to become. If you already know the answer to this, then bravo, kudos to you and good luck in advance on your journey. I do, however, have 2 more points that I would like to add to this narrowing down process. So graduates, when you have prepaid, limited data plans, you can't go clicking and viewing or downloading everything that catches your eye. You have to be a bit more discerning. And for many of you, I want to tell you that this will be a major consideration in how you ultimately decide what you pick. Your parents would phrase this by saying something like, you can't have champagne taste and Mobby money, or something to that effect. Which is simply to say, I know you don't understand these old people analogies, but that's okay. So this is simply to say, graduates, that you're on a budget, all right? And the budget in itself is going to force the narrowing down of choices. You may not be able to experiment as much as others may be able to do, unless you get some free Wi-Fi, which in this particular analogy will come in the form of either a scholarship, sponsorship, or maybe your mommy or daddy hitting the Lotto Plus jackpot. Now, while on the topic of finance, I also want to let you know that feasibility is an important factor for you to consider when you're trying to decide on which one of your dreams to pursue further. What do I mean by feasibility? Feasibility means considering what jobs will be open to you with that qualification, what's the pay range, are jobs like those available locally or will you have to compete internationally? That is the sort of logical thinking that will save you from pursuing something that you may be passionate about, but that will offer you little or bleak prospects for a bright and lucrative future. I urge you to not get misled by all of those who will encourage you to pursue your dreams at any cost. Instead, I hope that you find a way to make your passion pay. I hope that you find a way to make your passion pay, because this is how you will go through life working without ever feeling as though you have worked a day in your life. I wish to recommend that each one of you read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, or at the very least, go online and search for Rich Dad, Poor Dad and look at some of the videos online for a little more guidance on how to manage your financial prospects and your prosperity even from now. Because our wish for you is that you have a thriving career, but not just a thriving career, but we want you to go on to own the businesses in which your career is practiced. So don't just strive to become the doctor, but become the doctor who owns the medical complex where you practice. Become the lawyer who owns the firm where you practice. Become the janitor who owns the janitorial service company that is outsourced by every other company. Because nobody ever got rich working for anybody else. My penultimate point this morning tackles the major expected negative effect that is associated with the technological nature of your generation. And that is your impatience. The impatience that you will undoubtedly experience in the pursuit of long-term dreams or goals. Why am I making this bold statement or assumption? Well, because this has already been noticed by behavioral theorists who note that due to your generation's instant gratification and the instant gratification that is available to you in all aspects of life, you have not yet developed the necessary patience and stick-to-itiveness that is required for these longer-term ambitions. Remember, you are a generation of instant messaging, instant information, instant fun, with filters or with Fortnite, depending on which you prefer. Who are the filters people? And who are the Fortnite people? Love. The bottom line, graduates, is that I urge you to start the process now. I urge you to start the process now of setting goals that are longer than the last batch of goals that you set out to achieve. Engage in more things that test and build your patience, like, for instance, trying to explain to your grandparents how the internet works. That will instantly help you to become a more patient young man or woman. But seriously though, patience and a calm composure will serve you well in whichever field you aspire. As although I know that you are impatient for success, I want you to know that success will not come to you on your time, but on its own. You will also require great patience when the society that educated you refuses to utilize in a meaningful way the knowledge that you now wish to share with them. Because the gatekeepers are often bureaucrats or people who get by on red tape. In other words, you will find that even though it is a silly job, it will still be your job to try to convince some of the older gatekeepers of things that you see as common sense. You may have to take some time to coerce them into simple things or learning about simple things. But this too will be a requirement and one of the challenges that your generation will face. So the journey ahead of you will be as frustrating at times as undoubtedly it will be beautiful. Finally, to achieve any goal, much less a slew of them, time management will be of paramount importance, especially in your immediate secondary school life ahead of you, where you are now going to be expected to balance the study of more subjects, more work, more extracurricular activities, and contributions towards various causes, and that's just Monday. However, this road has been successfully navigated before. And instead of reinventing the wheel, seek out a mentor. Seek out a mentor and then customize that plan to suit your schedule and your personality. I wish to remind you that no system will work identically from one person to the next. So incorporate the pieces and the ideas that work for you and build and customize the others as you go along. I remind you as well this morning in closing that the most important goal of the million goals and dreams that you will have will always be the one that is next or the one that is right in front of you. I urge you to take care of that first and then move on to the other, and so on and so forth. Soon enough, the elephant in the room would have been digested because you did it one piece at a time. And you didn't try to bite off more than you could chew. Graduates, I say to you that a million dreams can be accomplished, but it will only come to fruition one at a time. I say cheers to the endless possibilities ahead. They are too kind. Let me repeat that. I say cheers to the endless possibilities ahead, and more importantly, to the fulfillment of potential that your 1 or 1 million dreams will hopefully bring. Thank you and good luck.